welcome. So tonight's discussion, what are we here to talk about? We're talking about the catch-22 of big. There seems to be a paradox that we are identifying here today in that large brands, in order to grow and maintain relevance, must increasingly act like small brands. And many of the large brands that we work with here too at CBX are dealing with an entirely new competitive landscape, where it is not about a single competitor. It's not even about a small group of competitors. It is literally death by 1,000 cuts of new and innovative brands that continue to come up over and over again at a pace that we just haven't seen. We're very fortunate here this evening to have our guest tonight. She is a leading food entrepreneur and change maker. She launched Peeled Snacks, a pioneering clean label organic food brand with simple, recognizable ingredients. She has been recognized as a White House Champion of Change, Women Presidents Organization's 50 Fastest, JWI Women to Watch, Columbia Business School's Distinguished Alumna, received the Academy Award for Entrepreneurship. What have I been doing with my life? I don't know. So please join me in welcoming Noha Waibsnaider. I guess I'd love to start here too. We're talking about big food. You started off in big food. What was the model then here too, and kind of what was the prevailing thought, and how did people see the world at that time?
Back in 2002, it was really my first introduction to big food, and I would go down to the lab, talk to the scientists, and they would say, "Oh, I wouldn't eat this stuff." Well, you're the scientist and you know, so maybe the rest of us shouldn't be eating this.
Well, first of all, I'm hearing lab and scientist. I'm not hearing cook and kitchen.
Right. And in fact, part of what they would say is, we're trying to make quarterly earnings, and every quarter we need to make more profit. And where is that profit going to come from besides taking it out of the ingredients? They would say, 15 years ago this was a decent product, but every quarter it needs to get worse. The brand managers generally tend to be well educated and have a lot of perspective on what's going on in the world, and we're certainly looking at the food and starting to question what we were making. To some degree, the marketplace wasn't ready, right? And that's something that I learned when I started Peeled Snacks. I thought, okay, there's this new organic seal. People really care about organic, and nutrition is getting big. I'm going to start Peeled Snacks with, clean label and really good for you products. And people didn't really even understand what we were selling. We started off with a line of dried fruit with no added sugar, and we put that on the packaging, and everyone said, "But there's sugar in it, it's fruit." And they didn't understand that added sugar was really different from real fruit and the nutrition that you get in real fruit. And it did take a long time for that to catch on, but obviously now they have.
From a brand perspective, talk to me a little bit about how people were talking about brand at the time. I didn't remember people in 2005 necessarily talking about purpose.
When we were in business school, social entrepreneurship was a new term. When I started Peeled Snacks, I always felt very strongly that my business needed to have a supply chain that was very much aligned with the social purpose of what I was doing. When we started the company, we had a certain price point, and we said, well, this is what the market can bear. We can't be so much higher than our competitors. And what we've seen in the decade since then is, really expensive coffees, $15 juices. People are willing to spend so much more on food and beverage than they were a decade ago.
Right.
And so we actually were able to take several price increases, all of which went just fine right through the market. That is actually, I think, where we need to be heading, where we need to spend less on TVs and more on food, because that's actually what nourishes us.
On the brand perception level, though, we're interested in these $15 juices here too. But part of what's going on with those juices in these brands is the constant hunt for new. While this is a growing area, it still doesn't seem to fit the model that is established within big food.
There is a question about whether those older established brands can ever truly shift enough to maintain their market share at all. And it seems to me that the real opportunity is in that using the large infrastructure, the infrastructure of a large CPG to piggyback the small brands and to leverage that to grow the small brands. Whether it's in a partnership, a joint venture, a full-out acquisition, an incubator, right? We're seeing a lot of really interesting, innovative models.
At the same time, I got this big factory here too that makes this stuff.
One thing
the one thing here too that keeps the lights on
so
here too. So how do I can't quit you.
You know, that factory is going to have to be repurposed, right?
Yes.
You're going to have to find something that you can do with it that does fit the new mold. And so it's not that the pie is shrinking or that it's going away. It's that the opportunity is moving very quickly.
In order to move quickly on those, it seems to be requiring a very different type of culture. Yes.
And that's something that we've always hired at Peeled Snacks, people who are very much aligned with our mission and really understood what we were working towards.
Right.
And then it also requires compensating them. For Peeled Snacks, everyone on our team has always had stock options because we wanted them to feel like they are truly owners of the company and they own a part of the company. You're able to move so much faster when everybody's very clear on the goal because they live and breathe it.
Before, when it was a purpose-driven brand or the authenticity here too, that was unique in of itself. Now with all of this access, that it is easier to get started up here too, that inherently becomes less distinct.
It's interesting, we actually didn't focus on our social impact when we started Peeled Snacks because we were so small. Today, we're actually able to have much more of an in-depth conversation, and we're able to educate consumers. For a long time, so much of what I spent my time on was literally working with the farmers in Mexico, helping them get financing, or literally financing them, so raising money myself so I could finance the farmers in Mexico so they could get through their harvest season. And yet we really couldn't talk about it because we didn't have enough outlets to even have the conversation.
To your point, I wonder if people will even be ready for those types of stories here too. Well, right now, it's like that's exactly the type of thing that people are hungry for. Tell me all about that here too. Will the large companies reflect more of the kind of the small company infrastructure and ecosystem here too going forward? Because in order to be agile, in order to jump on these things, it seems like I got to be kind of free.
What has now been proven is that there is actually an opportunity for investing money in this space and creating growth in this space.
Yes.
In these new types of healthy, transparent, good for you foods. And so now that the case has been proven, it is to some degree a race to get there, to really be able to be the leaders in the space.
Well, again, please give a big thank you here too for Noha. And I'd like to invite you guys to participate. Does anybody have a question here too that they would like to ask Noha here too? Yes.
Hello. Can you just talk a little bit about how you guys make decisions and what works and doesn't work about that?
Part of why we're able to make decisions quicker is because we are smaller, right? So we don't have 10 different layers that we're going through until it finally gets to committee and committee shoots it down. It has to be a lot more qualitative than quantitative.
Like when you first started in 2006, I thought it was too early for the market, and now there's all these like big superfood trends, right? Like it was kale and now it's charcoal. Who controls that conversation?
A good example is the no added sugar, in that today the nutrition label is about to change where no added sugar is actually going to be a call out on it, right? And so now there's literally government intervention in a way to educate consumers about what they're eating and what they're getting. And doctors are actually talking about it. Nutritionists are actually talking about it, right? Like the whole conversation has literally shifted across, government, consumers, people, retailers. Everybody is finally there, but it didn't happen, just because I put no added sugar in my bag, right? Like that was never going to change things on its own. The one thing I learned early on with Peeled Snacks is that when several brands come out together, they have a much bigger voice. And one of the things that we've done is we've actually partnered with other fruit and vegetable-based brands that are non-competitive, so they have slightly different products. And we were literally partnered to create a category and to go have that conversation with retailers because it does make a much bigger impact when we are a category.
We have, I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion here too. Thank you for sitting here too with us. I'd like to thank Noah here too for joining us for our first straight talk. We had a straight talk.